just get this going, and here we are. Yeah, I'm so excited to be talking with you, Jennifer, because it's not a coincidence. It's a miracle, in fact, that I was scrolling one night through Facebook, and as we do these days, like going through and I saw someone that I follow, I think, comment. I don't know how it is, but you know how it's all these algorithms or whatever. And it was someone commenting on your page, and I was like, "Oh, who's this lady? What's she talking about, Mr. Trump? Like, look at it! Wow, she's really going for it." This was at a time when
I had somebody DM me and say, "You're quite the crusader, aren't you?" It's like, yeah, I guess I am.
you were just on it, and this was at a time for me that I was really, I was still kind of like, I can't believe this. Like I was still like, I can't believe this. And I was so fascinated by people who believed it and were like crusading, like whoever said to you, like, we're on a path, we're 100% committed to it without a doubt. In your communication, in your language was all very beautiful. And so I ended up watching this video that you did, and I definitely want to make sure we get to this today, but you had said something in your live. I watched the whole thing. It was an hour. I was up late in the night, and it was like something about how God is your CEO. And you didn't even mention Trump or anything. You were just talking about like your coaching and all of that, and 5D consciousness and what it is to step into that fully and how to be unshakable. Also, I was like, I love this lady. And I've been so inspired that there's so many of us out there. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, because you definitely, it took me another month, I think, to like really come out and be like, I think I love him too.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. I'm gonna shift my internet here for a second. I always forget to do this before I get on, and it's my internet's slow, so I may freeze for a second, but I'll come back. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it has been a journey this year. Actually, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, you know what, I need to do a post on this so I can share with people the journey that I have been on to come to this conclusion, because this is not an easy conclusion to come to. Because as a spiritual warrior, you know, we look at somebody like Trump and go, yeah, but he's so freaking rude. Like, how can we, like, this is so crazy, you know? And then we start to look behind the curtains and we see like, okay, wait a second, there's way more going on here. And so it was quite a journey for me to come to, first of all, speak out. I had no idea, first of all, there was so much hate towards him, because I had completely removed myself from I watch absolutely zero news.
Me too.
And I had removed myself from any of that at all, and had not participated in the political realm at all. So when I was in my 20s, I was totally political. And I worked for my state representative, and I ran his office and his campaigns. Yeah.
Crazy.
Really?
Yeah. I worked for the Ohio State Senate, because I'm originally from Ohio. And so my 20s were consumed with working for senators. And then I was in DC for a minute. So I loved it, but then I stepped out, which is probably what you've done too, because I was like, this is total craziness. They're going to eat me alive. Exactly. And then I moved to San Francisco and got involved in yoga for the last 15 years until this year that brought me back around. So I'm excited to hear your story. So keep going. But yeah, that's crazy.
What a synchronicity there. Yeah, I was too, my whole 20s. I mean, even in high school, I was on the student government and everything. And then in 2004, I was producing commercials. I was actually living in LA at that moment, and I was producing commercials for a guy that did commercials for political candidates. His uncle is a guy named Jim Inhofe, and Jim Inhofe has been a senator for decades. Like, the dude's one of the oldest senators that's been there. So I was doing these commercials for Inhofe and for Chuck Grassley, for the presidential candidate that year, for all these other guys. I was traveling around the country, and we would go into their district and shoot commercials. And anyway, after that year, I was like, I want nothing more to do with this ever again. Like, this is so toxic. It was so toxic.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I left it and I never looked back until this year. And I was like, okay, COVID happened. It's a political year. All right, I see, this is political fodder for sure. They're definitely blowing it out of proportion. And then the riots happened, and then I was like, wait a second, this is big. So then that's whenever I went down the rabbit hole in June, and I was sucked in so deep for like a month. I didn't come up out of it. I was up till all hours of the night researching. I was like, what in the world's going on? This is crazy.
Yeah.
People hate Trump. I didn't know this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 Hey, but yeah, I totally feel you with going down the rabbit hole and then realizing so many things. And I mean, how was that for you? So, because I know for myself, like once I realized, and I went down in March, just a couple months before, but I didn't come out publicly. We were out there swinging way before I was. But what was what got you going then? I mean, for me, it was just like, well, the children's stuff, and then just wanting to be grateful for what he was doing and realizing that he was like really on it. I don't know if you saw The Fall of the Cabal.
Yes,
I mean, that was a huge, that was like the one that got me in. And then just disbelieving it, like just not being able to believe it, but then seeing all of it, like seeing all the evidence and being like that cognitive dissonance of like, oh my God, I just can't take it. My head's going to explode. And then letting myself go through that. And then finally just surrendering to it and knowing that, only love is real in the end, and it's all going to be okay. And we are ascending, and this is a part of it, is bringing our collective darkness out. But yeah, how did you deal with that? And how did you have the courage to start posting? Because yeah, it's not easy. The psychic hits, man. People are not very friendly about this.
no,
I mean, this is really intense.
It is really intense. It's really, really an intense, like you said, the psychic hits. I'm very protective of my energy. And so when someone hits me, it bounces off and bounces right back to them tenfold. So any psychic hit that someone sends to me, it's boom, it's right back on them tenfold. And so that is one thing that I knew that I had in my favor. I knew how to protect myself psychically and energetically, and I knew how to portal myself. And so I have that practice on a consistent basis. So that was one thing. It did take courage. I kind of like, when I went down in the rabbit hole and I started to, so I had learned about the sex slavery thing in 2008 was when I was first made aware of it.
Wow.
And I was made aware of it through a movie called Trade, Trade. And I do not recommend watching that movie if you're a sensitive being, or like, I watched that movie and literally was reeling from that movie weeks, and even like, this is more than 10 years later, 12 years later. And I can still remember the feelings of that movie. It was so graphic and intense about what really happened. They showed the tunnels, they showed all this stuff. And at that point in time, I mean, this is 2008. I don't know what to do. I just knew that I was meant to help people in that area. And so all these years since then, I would, every single year, I would make dream boards, and I would say, well, what's my cause? And my cause would always be, I want to help people in sexual slavery, but I don't know how. And literally that would be what I would write every year. This is what I want to help with. And so I had kind of like thought, well, maybe it's still the same. I don't know. I really didn't know that much about it. I had supported Operation Underground Railroad for years and knew about them for years and knew what their work was about. But then when it really started to come to the surface in May and June of this year, that's whenever I was just like, holy cow, this is insane. And I watched Fall of Cabal around that time, and then went down the rabbit hole. And I started to kind of like come out in July. How I first started to come out was in comments. So I would see people write a comment, and I would just be like, I'm taking it on. And I would take it on. And that kind of like gave me practice to be able to handle like the combative nature of people and the absolute hatred that I was receiving and the name calling and all of that stuff. But I was willing to take it on because I stand for the truth, and I stand for the truth no matter what. And so I began to kind of like put hints out there. And one of the things that I did do that was really advantageous for me, was that I never, like, I saw a lot of friends posting direct posts and sharing direct information about things. I went about mine in a very sly sort of way, where I would pose like a question or a comment that wasn't really clear, that would make people have to start to think. And then I would start to fill it in, and other people would fill it in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So people would get sucked into this thing that I said, and then all of a sudden they would start reading the comments and go, whoa, and have their red pill.
Okay.
And that's sort of like how I approached it, instead of being super direct. So like I never posted anything about Q or any of that stuff. I never was like, and that therefore I also bypassed a lot of the censorship, and I bypassed a lot. Now my Instagram is now shadow banned, but I bypassed a lot of that for a long time, because people, it was cryptic. It wasn't direct, it was cryptic.
Mm-hmm. That makes
And that was what I was guided to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I tended to, I don't really see my position as like the one out there, similar to what you're saying, like sharing all of the info, like the details of it, or sharing the videos and things like that. Although I did have a couple of conversations with some people that are like deep in the movement, but I was coming at it really from a place of just being curious and surprised that all of the people that were talking about Q or Trump and all the things had, at least the people I was tuning into and being the ones that were brought to me, were all spiritually rooted.
Yes.
Everybody was talking about 5D consciousness. Everybody
Yes.
was talking about meditation. Everybody was talking about diet. Everybody was talking about how you had to clean yourself up. And that's what kind of roped me in. And the other bit was that everyone I was listening to was saying, you need to take this inside. Like, you don't just take it at face value. You need to decide if this is true for you. And
Yeah.
that kept me coming back for more as well. And so when I started, I had a conversation with a couple gals that are in it. I don't know if you know of Alpasoni and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and all of them. And I called my talk with Alpa, which I sat on for 6 weeks and did not publish because I was so scared. Rightly so, because what happened after that was just huge, and my whole business like is literally being restructured. Like it literally fell apart. And in a way, I can see now. I'm almost on the other side of it. I'm like almost there, but I can see how it needed to happen. But initially, the shock of it and the oh my God, like really, all like, just because I said Q and Trump, like, and I didn't say I was supporting it. I said I was curious and I had a conversation with someone, but even that level of association with this is such a trigger for people that they literally, like, I mean, we're talking 15-year like business friendships, and really like, I'm out. Like, can we talk about this? No. Are you sure? Like it was just, I was so surprised and so off guard. And it's fine and it's good. And I see it's part of the whole alchemy of everything, but wow, was that intense? So yeah, I guess I probably could have followed your suit and just kind of gone around it a bit. And then people, but I think what happened was people got red pilled so fast in my community that were didn't want to go here. But I couldn't not go here, Jennifer. Like I felt, I felt it was so out of integrity. Those 6 weeks that I sat on those interviews and I sat back and I said nothing, I was suffering. I was like, I just felt like such like I was hiding, and I was ashamed of what? Like I was ashamed of the truth. And I was ashamed that I resonated with this, but it was true for me and I knew it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I didn't know what else to do but come out and deal now with what's happening. But yeah.
You know, it's very interesting, the process of coming out around all of this. Like, whoever knew that a presidential candidate and a movement could be so incredibly divisive that you could lose lifelong friends over it,
Yeah.
and that you are going to be called names, and that you are going to be demonized, and that you are going to be all of these things over it. But like you were saying, that was another thing that was really like just kind of crazy to me, is how the spiritual community could see what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So whenever I was first coming, like I first got the hit that Trump was working for the light in March of this year. Because like I said, I hadn't been paying attention at all. I had no idea I had no idea about Q. I didn't hear about Q until May of this year. I had no idea about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I had the hit that he was working for the light in March, and I'm like, something, I don't know what all of this is, but something is happening. And so when the divide happened back in June, where I followed a lot of coaches, or a lot of coaches followed me on Facebook especially. And so it's in this coach community where all these people are following one another. And when the riots started to break out in early June, we saw the divide happen then, of who was really super rooted and who wasn't.
Wow.
And those people that were super rooted stayed the course. They stayed super grounded in who they were. And they said, wait a second, I'm not going to post from emotion. I'm going to like see this through. I'm going to see what the truth is here. And then I'll begin to engage in this. And the people who were not grounded and rooted posted from emotion and just went off the edge.
Wow.
And so a lot of those people, like, I no longer follow because their posts were so dark and so divisive that I was just like, no, I've gotta, like, I don't even want to follow this girl anymore. She might say that she's a coach and she might be able to speak it and she might be able to sell really well, because there's a difference between selling, your ability to sell, and your ability to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And so my ability to sell is not as strong, but my ability to deliver from a place of authenticity and alignment is very strong. And I know that. So yes, some of these people can sell, but what's really going on behind closed doors, what's really going on in the heart, and that's what I really saw.
That's huge. I love how you just called that on yourself. And I feel that so much. Like, I can deliver as a coach and as an instructor, but I just, the selling aspect of it, I've never really been able to, like, it's fine. We're doing fine. It's like that, but it's not like the wows that I'm seeing in the industry. And I suppose, that was part of it. Like, okay, fine. Like, what have I got to lose at this point? Okay, I definitely lost clients. Like, I had 3 people drop out of my mastermind. I had 6 affiliates that had studios abroad that just were like, I want nothing to do with it. And their line was always that this is so divisive. This is divisive. This movement is divisive. And I was like, but you're the one leaving. Like, don't get into politics. There was like this idea that because I was spiritually, in touch, and I was able to communicate universal principles, that somehow I shouldn't be going in this direction because it was divisive. But I found that was primarily why I was going, because I wanted to support. I wanted to be a healing voice in that movement. I wanted to be able to support people, because when you wake up to this stuff, and people don't like to say wake up. All right, fine. Okay, when you become aware of what's happening and the level of corruption in organized society, and most people don't want to even admit that. Like, at least they're just like, oh no, it's fine. It's not perfect. That's just the way the world is, Marie. And I go, yeah, but again, if we're spiritually lined up, isn't it then our responsibility to create heaven on earth? Like, isn't it, whatever you want to call it, isn't that what we're doing? How can we be promoting all beings everywhere being happy and free?
Yeah.
When we have trafficking of children, and that's not even, that's the worst of it, but there's even worse.
Yeah.
Like, so that was like my indication that maybe I wasn't selling to the right crowd. Like, maybe And it's not for me even about that. Like, I would do this for free, and I'm sure you would too. And I can't wait to the day when, you know, cross your fingers, Nassara happens and we're all good to go. So it's just like, look, I'm here to serve. I don't even care. Give me $5 or nothing. Let's get beyond money. Like, how exciting is that going to be for us that know that we can share and know that we can serve and not be bound by that aspect of it, because that seems to be some kind of credentialing system, which
Yes.
is again part of the old that we don't want anymore. But it's very interesting to see the divide. And I'd like to ask you, like, one of the things that I've struggled with is that, okay, these people can sell and maybe they're angry or they're messaging and I don't want anything to do with it. What's hard for me is for people to come to my page now, and people are tagging me, and I'm just kind of letting it happen for now because I'm trying to find my footing. But like,
Yeah.
they're getting information that they really don't like. And so they think they're like, want to unfollow me because they think I'm promoting, you know, dark energy or whatever. That's the part that somehow sometimes catches me, because it's not my intention to hurt anyone. I don't think it's, you know, I certainly don't want to hurt anyone, but I do feel called to share and to speak up about what's happening. And if that hurts somebody, then I can't be responsible for that, but I can support you as you move through that. That's where I'm coming from. And it's trying to communicate that. And maybe it's just continuing to show up for that. But I don't know if you've experienced that people think that all of a sudden you're the bad guy because
Yeah.
you're red pilling or sharing information. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does make sense. So I experienced that too. My business took a hit in August. That's when my business did. And it lasted for a while. And it was very scary actually for me to walk it, because I lost clients as well. And I lost momentum, and I
Yes.
kind of like lost my footing because I was like, who am I talking to now? Like,
Right.
who's my girl?
Right.
Like, you know, I just like was, okay, who am I now? Like, what? I don't know.
Wow.
So I did go through that as well. And I'll tell you, on the other side of it, I've created more financial gain in the last like 6 to 8 weeks than I ever did before that. So it's like something healed inside of me around my willingness to step forward, that I have been rewarded financially. So I want to give you that, you know, that you have that coming, because yeah. So on the other side of that, there was that. But when I stepped forward and I walked through that dark tunnel, what happened was I started to get asked to do interviews like this, and then my tribe started to find me. And I got like tons of clients through people asking me to do things like this.
Yeah.
So I feel like your time is coming, like you're walking this tunnel, you're almost through the end of it. And on the other side of that is going to be like that, almost like that breakthrough to the clients that you're meant to speak to, you know. And this goes back to like, so I do a lot of shadow work with my clients, and this goes back to this individual and collective shadow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the collective shadow is that I don't want you to hurt my feelings. The individual shadow is I don't want you to hurt my feelings. And see, what they don't realize is that shadow, because nothing and no one has power over you. No one has the ability to make you feel anything. You choose to feel a thing. And so these people that don't like you sharing certain things, you know, I have very dear friends who register and vote Democrat, and they are like, who are you? Like, we've been friends for years. Who are you? Like, I don't understand us. And it's not that I was ever Democrat or Republican. I never really talked about it. But now they're just like, wait a second, you're disrupting my little bubble that I've created. And I don't like you disrupting my bubble. And so you and I have been in a personal development world for a long time. We're used to popping our own bubble. We're used to disrupting our own world, you know, because we're like in a constant up level type of thing. But for people, for the vast majority of people, they've never had their bubble disrupted. They go to work every day. They do the same thing every day. They live their life. They make plenty of money. You know, like these friends that I'm talking about, they have a lot of money. They have, you know, money that comes generationally, you know, from investments and company And so they have a little bubble. They have a lot of kids, their kids go to college and nobody worries about money, and that's just their life. And a lot of people live that way in our country, in the United States. And so anyway, when we go to disrupt their bubble, they don't like it.
You totally just nailed that, Jennifer. Way to go. It is that. It is, and I feel it. It's with, people really close to me. I can feel them just being like, what happened to you? You've been propagandized and all of that. And I think it's like you said, like, it's really asked me to go deeper and deeper into myself, and just to know that I am on the right side of this. I know this is happening. I know that it's all going to come out at some point, and I know whatever's going to be is going to be, but it's going to be good. And that was really what it was about. It was like, to the people that are safe in their bubbles, and those are the people I find that are having the hardest time, that they don't want the world to change, but it's changing, and it has to.
It has to. Yes, it does. It has to. Yeah. So we have disrupted a paradigm that they have had for a really long time. And a paradigm goes through 3 different stages in a shift. Hi, it's itching. A paradigm goes through 3 different stages. The first one is like the stage of when you're in the paradigm and the shift, then people think you're crazy. So Q has been the crazy people for years. And there's been this like fringe of just a few people that really paid attention to what they were saying. But it was enough. It was enough that was paying attention to then activate, this year what activated a mass awakening to where stage 2 happens, where, so stage 1 is vehemently opposed. Stage 2 is that, well, okay, I can kind of see how this can be. Like, and look at the Walk Away campaign. How many people walked away from the old narrative and walked into, because here's what I also believe too, is that, we've had Democrat, Republican for, as long as this country has been here, really. And we're actually dismantling even that.
Yeah.
We're dismantling even that. Like, we're going either, I don't know what's going to happen with the party situation, but that's even being dismantled. So people step into step 2, and there more and more people get on this boat of, yeah, I could see this. Yeah, I can see this. Yep, I can see this. And more stuff is coming out even now, especially now until the 21st. And then what happens is you reach that tipping point where you step into where the vast majority of people are like, yeah, it's true. It's true. Donald Trump was right all along. It's true.
I'm holding that vision. It's,
Yes.
I think all of us are, that's our function, is to continue to anchor that in. And, and my gig was just really came down to gratitude. Like, wow, thank you, dude. And that we can actually get over this negative patriarchal thing that we have. Like, I was in an interview, a conversation with Sasha Stone. I'm sure you've heard of him, Down the Rabbit Hole. And we talked about this a bit. And one of the things that I took really strongly from that is, he had said, why do people have such a hard time with Trump, or why do people have such a hard time with Q and all the things, is because we're more comfortable with the toxic patriarchal energy than we are with the divine masculine. And that is a potentiality actually playing itself out. We're so accustomed to the darkness. And that is the problem. I asked him, how are we so far gone? And he said, we're as far gone as our unconsciousness has gone. We're so far gone unconscious that's why it's come to this level. And that's really kind of catapulted me too up into, okay, because when I could see, it was like when I heard, for the first person who said Donald Trump is on the right side of things that I heard out loud say that in public was David Wilcock, who I have been watching in terms of ancient civilizations, and because I love ancient history and the human family and all the stuff for a long time. And so when he said that, I was like, what? And then it was like, the level of relief was immediate. I knew it was true. I knew it. I had to catch up because there was still all of the, well, what about the white supremacy? What about the, like all that stuff that my ego had filed away because of my, mainstream media programming. But for the last 2 years, I hadn't seen anything, but it was still there all the way back from the Hillary days. It was ingrained in there, but I knew it immediately. It was good. and the relief of
Yeah.
that. Like, oh, thank God. Because if you're not dialed into that narrative,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, the world must be really scary. Like,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're actually alchemizing is we're alchemizing the fear. And so it takes far fewer of us who are awakened to this reality to do the alchemy to get everyone else on board. That's why we went first. That's why you got breast cancer when you did,
yeah,
and you experienced what you experienced so that you could anchor into a courage and a faith and a hope that was beyond anything that you could ever imagine. I mean, before that, would you have ever believed that you could have this level of faith and
no,
hope?
no,
Yeah, I know. So we went first.
yeah,
We went first over the last few years and anchored in and did the work.
yeah,
And now, see, and here's the other thing that has happened in the last couple of years is that now we've been spread out all over the world. So you're in Mexico City. I'm in Southern Illinois. Like I grew up in Southern Illinois and I have not lived here in 15 years.
oh,
Okay. And earlier this year, I came home. I was like, circumstances fell apart where I was. I had put my stuff in storage and I came home and then I just didn't leave. I just kept staying.
wow,
And then one thing led to another. COVID shut down and then I kept staying and then I kept staying. And then I'm like, okay, this is really wild, and part of what I'm doing is healing my parents, you know, and I didn't realize that my dad is in the hospital right now with a heart thing.
wow,
And it's like, oh, wait, this is why I came home. I'm meant to help them heal.
yeah, that's so
And
beautiful.
so, anyway, I'm anchored in Southern Illinois, holding it down. So it's really, really fascinating when you are totally aware of what's going on, to see all of the moving parts and to see the matrix start to like shape shift itself around and move where, like all of these things are falling into place. It's
Wow.
wild.
Yeah, it's totally wild. It's totally like I go through so many different emotions with it, seeing the divine plan, like just hearing what you said about, you don't know, it all happened. So you were there for this moment. Like it all happened. So I was here for this moment. But
Mm-hmm.
becoming that in touch with the mathematics of God, like, wow, seriously, we just really need to be bowing much more. We need to be much more grateful that there is an intelligence that can see. And that's
Yeah.
what's so fun about this is that we can start to see if we align to that. One of the things you said in one of your videos that I loved was God is my CEO. Or,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
I was like, I
Yeah.
love this thing. I think that's so powerful.
It is. It's really,
My
really powerful. Did you have something happen?
my can is my
Uh-huh. I can.
We're good.
Okay. Weird. Yeah.
But
Okay. I was
anyway,
hearing it. Yeah. That is one of the crazy things. And then, here's another thing that I want to touch on about the masculine, because you had brought up the masculine, and we are so used to and accustomed to watching my family walk down so I live in basically a commune where the driveway has my grandparents' house, my parents' house, my aunt and uncle's house, my cousin's house. We all live on the same. Yeah. So anyway, I'm watching them all outside today. It's a nice day. Anyway, going back to the masculine. So the divine, okay, so we have been accustomed to the toxic masculine, right? And we've also been accustomed to the toxic feminine, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like the toxicity of the masculine and the feminine, and the divide. So we have been very accustomed to the divide of the masculine and the feminine and not having a union there. And so as I have healed, what the process of healing is you heal your shadows, the parts of you that you've tucked away and you don't want to admit that's there, and you don't want to look at some of it you don't even know is there. And so you hide this stuff away and you put it away and you don't want to acknowledge it. So then what happens is, as you're healing this, you're coming up in frequency. So what happens is when you shine light on your shadows, you raise your frequency a little bit, and then you shine light on more shadow, raise it up a little bit more, and eventually you raise yourself up to a place where you're light body, like you're completely activated in the light. You're activated in the light and love of God, a source creator. And so what that looks like actually is you're healing the masculine and the feminine inside of you. And then what happens is you stand firm on a foundation of healed, whole masculine first. And then you can step into your divine feminine, and then you can go down that path. But until your light body is activated and you've gotten rid of shadow and you stand solid on your masculine, meaning you trust the masculine, you trust the providing and the protection and the provision, then you can actually make this other journey into the divine feminine and have the union of yourself. And so what this is doing is we are alchemizing shadow on an individual level and on a collective level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. That was so beautifully spoken. It's almost, and I could add to that like once you get that foundation, like once you're held and you know you're safe and you know you're protected, then the feminine can rise within. And
exactly.
she's forward, she's available, she's anchored, she's fully blissed out and open and nurturing, and she's got so much endless amounts of love, but she cannot come out if the divine masculine is running the show, because she won't. She respects herself too much. She respects her energy and her sacred energy so much. And that's what I think, all of this, scarcity and all of our survival comes from, is just being stuck in our first three centers because of this toxin masculinity. And we see it with what happens with children, with violence against women. I mean, there's just so much, guys, that we have got to heal from. And every single one of us, and the work that Jennifer's doing, the work that we're up to, is supporting each individual at pulling out their thread of it. Like,
yes.
I want to pull my piece out. I don't want to be a part of that matrix anymore. I don't want to be part of that insanity. I'm complete with that. I've healed it within myself, and let's move on. Let's get to the next level, where now the divine feminine is fully activated within us. And now here we go, and saving the children, supporting the children, all of that very important work. We have so much work to do. That's why I'm like, guys, like, get over yourselves. Like, this is not about, it's not even about, a presidential election. It's so much bigger than that, even though that's the catalyst that's gotten everybody all like,
yeah, it's so true. That is so true. And I love how you said the thread, because that really is what it is. It's the thread of humanity in all of us. And we're doing our part to pull out, our connection to this toxic matrix that we have been plugged into for so long. And as we activate to higher states of consciousness and awareness and activate our light body, then we step out of all of these old paradigms of lack and scarcity and fear and shame and guilt and all of this stuff. I know for my own self, I was stuck in lack and scarcity a really long time, like most of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just now really transcending that bit inside of me. Like that was like the last bit to really start to transcend, And one of the things that I want to say too, that I worked with a healer on this. Those of us who are really drawn to this topic, the topic of the sexual slavery and the topic of what's really happening right now, experience some level of this on Atlantis and some level of this in Babylon as high priestess and as sex workers at that point in time of history and humanity. And so now we've come back in this life. I'm getting like chills right now.
I just got full body, like everything in my body is activating. I'm holding onto my crystals.
I'm like literally activating right now. Holy cow.
Look.
Okay. Wow. We came back to do this because we went through it before twice. We went through it in Babylon and we went through it in Atlantis, and we came back now to anchor this in so that we don't do it again. We don't lose it again. And we transcend it. So we don't need to live this anymore. We don't need to repeat this pattern anymore. Like, this is our deliverance, So if you're attracted to this message, you were at one point in time a high priestess that worked in this world, and you have been activated to these higher codes, and these codes are just dormant. So now it's time to wake them up, you know? Wow. I don't know what just happened there, but that was really powerful.
That was very powerful. Thank you for that. It's really important that we come together. And I think that's why I reached out to you. And so many people are reaching out to me right now too, because I basically came out of the closet on the Charlie Freak show last weekend.
Oh, wow.
So I've been receiving tons of messages and all of this stuff, but it's one of the things that keeps coming up for me is that we need to be together. We need to hold each other through this, because I know you've at times you must have felt alone, and I have absolutely felt like alone and insane, and question my capacity to breathe. Like it's been so heavy. And so when you said that, the thing about truth is this: when it's true, you know it.
Oh, it resonates in a second. Mm-hmm.
What you just said was true. I already knew it, but I didn't know it. And that's what happens on this journey of ascension. We have to, what you're saying about looking at our shadows, like, so no, the more that we know, the more we can heal. And so the people that watch this, wow, there are ones that are going to just have that same full body activation. So thank you for holding that space. And thank you, Marie, thank you to our higher selves that said, okay, we're going to heal. We are the priestesses I've always known. And the attack, these types of attacks, this is why we get, the crucifixion. This is why we have these moments of going deep into the dungeons and resurrecting and coming forward again into the light, because the light is all that's real. All of this is our collective insanity, and darkness is, we're just so complete with it as we step more and more into the light. It was, look, I'm still activating.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting woken up in the middle of the night. What's happening, especially in these last 10 days and up to the 21st, I'm sure you're tuned into that too. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Really
beautiful. It is really, really powerful. You know what else that I wanted to say as well about all of this is that there's a lot of people who are in the love and light crowd who hate Trump. Like, they hate him with a passion, and they're like, how can you? It's all love, it's all light, and they keep it really surfacey. And so that can confuse someone who isn't yet rooted in. The first thing that I want to say is, if you're confused and if you're not yet truly, totally rooted in, and there's still some back and forth.
It's all good.
My dad's been in the hospital since Saturday. He just walked in.
Oh, yay. Oh my gosh. Do you want to go give him a hug?
No, I'll finish this and I will.
Wow.
Anyway, if you're not rooted in to that truth, then it can look like that Donald Trump is not on the side of source and God and all of what's right and what we're doing here as a planet, spiritual beings making a shift. And so I want you guys to hold space for people who are still sucked into the false spirituality, into the false of that world, because some of our spiritual teachers have been hijacked, and we can look at them and see and know. And so we want to hold space for those people who have been hijacked in some way, and to and even your spiritual friends who may be reaching out to you saying, how can you do this? How can you like this person? You're out of order, just hold space for them. If you need to unfriend them, do so. I had to unfriend several because they were so mean, yet they were still preaching love and light. And they were doing it in a very passive aggressive manner. And I could see through that. Those of us who are awakened, we can see through passive aggression. And, and I'm just not gonna have that in my world, but I'm also going to hold compassion and love for people who are not yet seeing it.
Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful that you said that, because I think that's the next level of work for us, is to continue to be compassionate and not, not take it personal. I think there was a thread of me that was like still wanting to take this very personal, like from the light and love community, like what's gone wrong with you? This is not the narrative that we've agreed to. And I'm like, yeah, but I think you've been distorted. I think that this is a false spirituality. It's been inverted. Literally, the geometries of this have been inverted. And me and Jennifer and all the people I'm talking to right now, it's like our work is to get this back into holiness, is to come back into seeing, being willing to see that there's amazing things happening right now. And we're healing from eons of darkness. And you cannot be all love and light and have hate. I don't hate Joe Biden. I have no feelings for him. I don't even think that's Joe Biden, but that's neither here nor there right now. So people were saying, don't post on Trump, but then they were hashtagging Biden 2020. And I was like, and don't be political, but then doing that, and then coming out against it. Like, that's what we're healing, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not even about, who you prefer. It's about good and evil. That's it.
It is. Truly is, you guys. It truly is. It's about truth. It is about justice. It is about good and evil. It is about the higher timeline. I've also said this a lot in my recent lives, is about humanity choosing. There's two different timelines that get to be chosen right about now. And I have a belief that humanity collectively chooses a higher timeline, which is Donald Trump. It is not Joe Biden. If we go down a Joe Biden timeline, he's already said yesterday that he's going to do 100 days of mandatory masks. And I mean, everybody's got a mask. Like, no, that is a low timeline. That is a low morale. He already said in the debates, it's going to be a dark winter. Yeah, he was very negative in the debates. How you can be love and light and then see him as the higher timeline is like your ability to see is full. Your clairvoyance to see is full of low frequencies and fear if you cannot see the truth. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but I'm saying that to say, clear the low frequency out of the clairvoyance. You clear the low frequency out of the clairvoyance by demanding the clarity come. And you clear out what's called soul, their beings. They're souls without a body attached. And they come into our body, they feel our auric field, and they fill our channels to divine consciousness and connection. So we have channels of clairvoyance, clairaudience, we have clairsentience, which is your clear feeling, and your claircognizance, which is your clear knowing. Those are all full of low frequency fear-based beings. So we have to constantly command them out, and we command them out. This is how my teacher taught me. I say, I cast a circle of light where only God, Source, Creator, and my core angelic healing team is here. 999 container command. Get into the container, get into the container. Because see, they're souls, so they cannot be destroyed, right? Souls are eternal. So you put them into a container. And you seal that container, sending it to the 11th plane of the astral, where the beings will be reassigned according to frequency. And healing is available to all of them. Yeah. And so it's a very beautiful process, and I just constantly do. And this is what I do with my clients. I constantly am clearing karma and agreements and beings out of their system. So
beautiful.
And this is the work, So, so if you are not able to see that is a low timeline, ask to see. Yeah. Because the Donald Trump timeline is the higher timeline, is the timeline of promise. Yeah. And it's always been that way. It's always been the timeline of promise. Mm-hmm. It's always been the timeline of make America great. Beautiful. Make America exciting. Mm-hmm. Make America awesome. Yeah. You go to a Trump rally and it's exciting. It's awesome. It's full of love. It's full of excitement.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even just that, what you just shared was so beautiful, because it is about being able to see, in our work, we just say, just be willing to see it differently, can start to get that negativity, and that it's just almost like it's all this dense frequency. And what you're saying is very true. We can call them energies and beings. And if that resonates with you, go for it. You can call it just dense energy and programs. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It just matters that you clear it. Like, and however you can, call Jennifer up, call whoever, call me, but it is important that we're willing to see things differently. And if you're not willing to see it differently, then sadly, you're going to be suffering very, very densely right now, because that's the point of now. The point
Mhm.
of now is to push us through the portal and to get us through this. And, if you can't see just even that, the rallies, how exciting it is. And just what's happening with this guy, if you're so attached to being right,
Yes. Yeah.
like, and that's the thing, like, you went through it, I went through it, we were like, oh wow, I
No.
might have been wrong about Donald Trump. And that's
Yeah.
feeling, just being like that, and then being able to see what he's actually been up to, and the energy around it, and all of these
Yeah.
spiritually awakened humans coming together, speaking out about this, taking massive hits to their
Yeah.
business, to their personalities, to their characters. Why are we doing this? Do you think
Yeah.
this is
Exactly.
fun? Like, this is like, ooh, let's do this on a Tuesday. No, it's not. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. It takes, but it's beautiful, because like what you're saying, you're supporting people and releasing the demonic forces that are present in their energetic field. There is nothing more important to do right now than that. Because those guys cannot go to the
No.
other side. They don't
No.
fit in. They can't get through that portal. You can. You are a divine being of light. So be that, and do whatever
Yeah.
you can, and connect with whoever you can who can support you in releasing yourself from all of the trauma, all of the wounds, all of the shadows, all of the shit, so that you can get light and free and happy, and be of service in the world. Because Lord knows we need more people that are here to serve, and support not only the children and all that's going to come, but the compassion that's going to be required for the people that wake up and go, oh my God, I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
Like, there
Yeah.
it is again.
I
Woo!
know, right? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of that in the next couple of months, and when the next round of riots come as well, that's going to be another mass awakening, because we all know that it's going to happen whenever this election is overturned and shifted. There's going to be another mass round of rioting and disruption and civil unrest, and it's going to just wake up that many more people, and it's all for a purpose. Just like you were saying a moment ago, it's like we don't wake up every day and go, yeah, I want to I want to go out there and beat the pavement for Donald Trump and like put my business on the line. Like, I put out a post and then I archived it because I needed to for some reason, and now I can't figure out how to unarchive it. I thought when you archive something you could unarchive it. That was the whole point.
I don't know.
But anyway, I can't figure out how to do that on Instagram. But I archived a post, but when I posted it, man, I mean, I got hundreds of comments. Some of them were supportive, and some of them were not supportive. And I had like 250 people overnight drop off of my following.
Wow.
On Instagram. So yeah, it was a bloodbath. It was. Our business is our livelihood. Our business is meant to reach people. This is the whole reason why we do it. And whenever people drop off, but then, you have to go, well, they were not my people. They were not ready to learn from me.
Yeah. And hold the vision that they'll find someone, if that's their path, if that's what they want.
Yeah.
If they want ascension in this lifetime, it is available. And that's what's exciting about these days, is that this is happening. I'm going, Jennifer's going, we're nearly there. Why not jump on? It's so much more fun. And that sifting, it's like Sasha also said, something about like, there's 50 acorns that fall, but only 2 become the tree. And so it's like, this is what's happening. And yes, I had some deep things and some shifting, and a lot, people in my family and everybody, overnight somehow, how could you support a racist and a supremacist and, all of this craziness. But again, it's like you can see it from that place. It's just like what we're saying. You can see it from there, or you can broaden and you can step back and unplug and see what's happening. And that's what this is about. And I was censored yesterday on Instagram. I haven't said anything on Instagram, but this beautiful 17-year-old asked me to come on her live, and she's adorable. And she's like, this true. She saw me on Charlie's show, and she's like, hey, So we do this talk, and I went later in the night to check it out. Jennifer, it's gone. It's like, it was censored. I was like, oh, because that's my first time feeling like, oh,
Yeah.
there's censorship. We didn't really talk
Yeah.
that much about things. She talked a little bit about her experience being vaccinated. She's 17,
Uh-huh.
but she was still getting like flu shots. And we talked about that, and a little bit about the corruption in the Red Cross and United Nations and some of the organizations, the World Health Organization. Once you start to unpack it, you cannot unsee
Yes.
what you saw.
Yes, you can't.
You can't.
You know, you can't. And that's why so many people have been suicided, because they can't unsee what they saw, and they paid the ultimate price for it.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up to the top of the hour, but do you have a moment? I wanted to ask you about this Black Lives Matter. This has been a big thing in our community. And I'm meeting with some Australians in a little bit tonight around this, but in the yoga community, the Yoga Alliance, which is similar to, like, I don't know if you're a part of any coaching organizations. I'm not a part of that. And I'm pulling out of the Yoga Alliance based on their support of Black Lives Matter and a few other things. Like, you can't say that yoga is healing, which is crazy to me, because that's what we do. Like, that's what we're all doing, whether you're doing it through coaching or light work or yoga, but that we're healing. Humans are healing.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. So it's crazy, but the Black Lives Matter has provoked a lot of people in my community, and what I'm seeing around, like, this really divisive. And you spoke about riots a couple times, and I'm not in the States, so I don't have my finger on the pulse so much, but I found that, there's still so many light and love people that think that the BLM movement is about that. And I wonder if you have any light that you can shed on that for us.
No, that is one of that is incredibly demonic and dark movement. Incredibly dark, incredibly demonic. They don't really even try to hide it. And, one of the things you said about the black magic coming over, and infiltrating people, part of what these people have done is, in the process of sacrificing children, they cast spells. And they have cast spells, and people are sucked into it. They get sucked in through their TV. They get sucked in through all these different modalities. See, you and I have done a lot of work. I've done a lot of work to unstick this. I have reversed spells. I have cleaned up the energetic portal that I maintain here on this planet. So therefore, I'm not subject to that anymore, because I have such a clean portal. And I also know how to clean myself now. So I keep myself clean consistently, and I have healers that clean it. So I'm hitting it from both sides. But this movement, do you support Marxism? Like, I'm speaking to the people that are going to be watching this. Do you support Marxism? And that both of the founders have come out on video camera and said they are trained Marxist. So that right there is a huge red flag. Something that they had on their website a while ago, they don't any longer, is that they wanted to disrupt and dismantle the nuclear family and take it apart. Well, the nuclear family, like, our society depends upon the family unit, and to disrupt that and to tear that down, disrupt society completely. You guys, family isn't about the 1950s, golly gee, and all of that. No, family is essential. And when we can heal the family and we can bring the family together, that's when we bring humanity together. But it starts there. Humanity doesn't come together through all these different things. It comes together because it starts in your family. It starts in your unit closest to you. And then it forms a web out. And so to disrupt that and dismantle that is to disrupt entire societies, to control them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just nailed it.
And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen in the Black community. And the only reason why I'm not Black, so I clearly cannot relate to having Black skin in America. So that's my first thing that I want to say. So this information that I'm sharing comes from people in the Black community who have shared this, and I'm just parroting and repeating what they're saying, is that the Black community's family unit has been disrupted. Starting in the 1960s, they began to take the father out of the home.
Mhm.
They began to say, okay, we'll give you money to the woman if you will not live with the father of your children. So they started to take apart the family unit. And then we have the highest crime rates inside of the Black community. We have fatherless boys who don't have any like direction. And it's like, who am I? Where am I? And they get into trouble. And we have seen the decay of whole communities in certain pockets of the country, you know, and that's exactly what removing or disrupting the family does, is it decays your whole society. And that's why whenever a dictator takes over, they split up the family. They don't leave the family together. So
Wow. It's
yeah.
so full circle back to good and evil. This is evil intention. It's not about promoting the good and the holy and the beautiful for us as divine creatures of light. Its intention is off, and that's what we need to accept, not to hide it anymore. Or because if we hide it, we default into it and we support it. It's calling a spade a spade. This movement is not what it seems to be. And
it's not at all.
It's not at all. And it is about breaking apart the family. And I'm so glad you took it there, because that's one of the saddest things that we see. And one of the saddest things that I'm still healing from in my journey and understanding of all of this, Jennifer, is that I really believe I do stand for blacks and browns and purples and greens and blues and whatever kind of, like I stand for that. But to be accused that somehow that's not true, there's still a little bit of me like, wow, gosh, guys, this is not what you think it is. And I really implore people to have a deeper look at things and to stop being so surface around, the rioting and this is so much bigger. This is about, are you supporting good? Are you supporting the timeline that's getting us there faster? Or are you so attached to being right that you want to think that Black Lives Matter has anything to do with bringing Black families back together and healing the treacherous things that have happened to that community from the beginning? I mean, it's from the beginning.
Yeah, it is a very divisive and ugly organization. And, when people try to accuse me of being, racist or whatever because I don't support them, I'm like, okay, you can accuse me of that. I know who I am. And I stand very strong and firm in that. And, one last thing about that is all somebody has to do is just even a little bit of research, a little bit of research into the organization. And you will find that there's absolutely no programs supporting the Black community, to empower the Black community, to put them on their feet, to help them in any way. Their money goes to their leaders, their organizers, and Democratic people in office. Yeah. That is where their money goes. Billions with a B goes to that, and to the riots. Billions with a B goes to that. They don't go to help single moms. They don't go to help women heal. They don't go to help relationships come together, to teach relationship skills and communication skills. They don't go to any of that. They don't go to improve housing. Wow. They don't go to improve education. Not a dime. Show me where a dime of their money goes to do that. Wow. And then I might be willing to be open to listening to how that is making a positive impact on the community. But until then, no. So
Jennifer, you are amazing.
You are too, love. Thank you so much for having me.
I have loved this conversation. I mean, we have cried, we have been activated, we have taken on so many topics in this hour together. It's such a privilege to be in your presence, really.
Yeah, me too. I feel that way about you too, Marie. It's just been really a beautiful hour. Really beautiful. And I'm grateful to you for having me, and I'm grateful to your guests who will be listening. And those of us, we got to be spiritual warriors and go out and change the world.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to list ways that you can get in touch with Jennifer. And this is not the end of us. This is just the beginning. I'm excited. I've had a couple ideas just coming in, and I'd love to invite you back and and be a part of your community as well. It's just beautiful to see how we're coming together, and how we're not. This is not about competition. This is about collaboration. It's about
Yeah.
being together on this journey and supporting each other, because Christ, it's it's a big one. It's a big one, and I'll take all the
Yeah.
help I can get at this point from all of the lovers out there. So, thank you for the space. Please give your dad a big hug from me too. And I don't even know him, but just that moment in time, I'm so glad it was actually on camera. I think that was
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
your face. The light. There's light around you. It was just beautiful. So thank you for your work, and I'm going to be in touch with you. Some of the stuff you said really resonated with me too, just around the clearing of the energy, and I'm going in that direction as well. It's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you, love.
Love you. Love you. Bye for now.